Hello, this is Forest Elementary Principal Keith Wing with some important information to share with you regarding our school reopening. What I'd like to do is I'm going to share my screen so you can see what we have in store for everybody. Here's our updated reopening plan, updated just today. So there are two choices for families. The first choice, as many of you know, is the hybrid model. And that's a plan that has 2 days a week of in-person instruction. And the other option is the all remote option, where families will be remote all 5 days of the week. So for the hybrid model, it's broken up into two groups so that we can socially distance and accommodate all of our students appropriately. So group A is students with the last names A through L. They'll attend schools on Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesdays will be a remote learning day, and Thursdays and Fridays will be independent learning days. Group B is just the opposite. M through Z is our students with the last name M through Z will be in school on Thursdays and Fridays. Wednesdays will be the remote learning day, and Mondays and Tuesdays, the independent learning days. Group C is for all of our ENL students. They will attend school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and they will have remote learning on Wednesday. Group D is for some of our specific special education classes, and those students will be in school 5 days per week. So teacher assignments, I'm going to try to answer a lot of frequently asked questions that I've had over the last couple of weeks during this. But for the teacher assignments, I know a lot of our students and families are eager to know who their teacher is for this upcoming year. We're going to try to release that as soon as possible, hopefully by the end of this week. One of the things that we have out there right now is that families can still choose the remote learning option through Wednesday, and so that will greatly impact our teacher assignments. So we just can't release those just yet, and we're still modifying those as appropriate. The all remote teachers that we will have here are Forest Elementary teachers. So we have one teacher at each grade level that is going to be a remote teacher for those classes. So just something to remind you is before arrival at each school at each day, I have two questions for you to ask yourself. The first one is, does my child have a mask? So a lot of our kids I know have masks that they're comfortable with and feel good on them. If your child does not have a mask, we will provide one for them, but hopefully you have a mask that your child is comfortable with and happy with that they can use. And the second thing is, did I remember to complete the health screening on WITS? Each morning that your child is attending school, we're asking you to please log on to WITS, and there's a screening, health screening that helps determine whether or not it's recommended for your child to attend school that day. So transportation, a few things here. You'll be able to track your child's bus via the MyStop program. If you haven't used it before, it's a great program that it allows you to be able to see with a GPS where your child's bus is. And seating on the school buses will be socially distanced. As Mr. Matursky said during one of the community forums, there's only a certain amount of students that we can have on each bus. So if we got into a situation where a morning bus was running and it hit its capacity, that bus would have to return to school and then go back out and pick up the rest of the kids. And the transportation department would notify everybody that there would be a slight delay in their child's pickup. Students must wear masks on the school bus. So parent drop-off. So we have extended the window for parent drop-off. Typically, for those of you who've done this previously, you know that the parent drop-off window is 8 to 8:25. Because this is such a unique situation and we want to make sure we get everybody in an orderly fashion and make sure we do all of our health screening, we're going to extend that window from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8:45 a.m. As cars pull up in our side loop, they'll be released one or two at a time so students can socially distance as they enter the building, and then we'll do their temperature scanning. For those of you who are not aware, the temperature scan is a wrist temperature scan, and it tells us what their temperature is. If a child does have a temperature of 100.0 degrees or higher, we will bring them to our nurse's office so that they can be rechecked by our nurse. No individuals who are not students or staff will be permitted in the building. That is for safety purposes. I know in years past we've had families occasionally walk their child down to class. Unfortunately, that's just something we're not going to be able to do because of all the safety measures that are in place. So I want to talk about attendance. So our arrival window of time in the morning, as mentioned in the previous slide, is 8 o'clock in the morning till 8:45 a.m. We did move our attendance clerk. Traditionally, she was in the nurse's office, but now she's going to be right at the front of our library. So if anybody arrives late with their child, we ask that they please go to the bus loop, which is by the flagpole. The family would buzz the door. Our attendance clerk would meet them at the door. The parent obviously would not be able to come in, but the attendance clerk could screen the late student and let them into the building. Social distancing and safety. So we are all going to wear masks properly, all students and staff. Our desks are arranged to be 6 feet apart in all directions. Students may not be within 6 feet of each other for 10 minutes or more. So that's one of the pieces of information the state gave us to maintain safety. And we will expect and allow mask breaks. Those will primarily happen during instructional transitions during the day. Social distancing is also something that's going to happen in our hallways. We're currently, as I speak, marking off our hallways so that students will be able to stay on one side of the hallway, and we'll mark off the 4 and 6 foot increments. We're going to keep in our classroom our windows open as much as possible and encourage our classes to go outside whenever it's practical to do so. And we're going to put in every effort not to mix students from different classes together. So this is a sample of what a classroom looks like right now. It's not something that we're certainly used to, because we're used to our students working at tables and being close together. And unfortunately, that's just not something that we're allowed to do at this time. So this is a traditional classroom that we're going to have for this year and what it might look like. I'd like to talk about curriculum extension or specials. So curriculum extension will come to the classroom. The only real exception to that would be physical education. Physical education is going to take every effort to take the students outside as much as possible. So please send your child with appropriate attire, even if it's cooler than normal or wetter than normal or whatever the case may be. We're going to try to get these kids outside. And the reason we're going to do that is because there is a rule regarding social distancing and phys ed that we are to maintain 12 feet of social distancing whenever an anaerobic activity is occurring. So if you've ever measured one of our classrooms, 12 feet doesn't allow for very many students in there. So we do have some bigger spaces that we're trying to restructure to be able to use for phys ed should it have to be inside. But we're going to take those kids out whenever it's possible. So please send them in with the appropriate attire. Band and orchestra is a little bit of a similar situation where 12 feet of social distancing is also required. So they're going to use the auditorium for lessons, individual lessons. It does not seem likely that we would be able to bring an entire orchestra or band together into one physical space. That's just not going to be something we can do in a socially distanced manner. Our curriculum extension schedule will rotate and a schedule will come out, and you will have access to that in the very near future. So the other thing that's going to happen with our curriculum extension is this is both for our remote students and our hybrid students, but there's going to be up-to-date postings, learning activities, and learning videos for all students to partake in within the curriculum extension. For those of you who are not familiar, we have 4 specials really. Phys ed happens twice within a rotation, library once, art once, and music once. I'd like to talk about some academic supports. I had a lot of questions about that. So our teachers are going to do a lot of push-in because we can't mix cohorts, as I mentioned in a previous slide, where we have some students from this class and some students from another class come together. We're required to minimize that as much as possible. So our reading teachers are going to do a lot of push-in to the different grade levels. We're also going to assign a reading teacher to each grade level, and that reading teacher is going to have a lot of responsibility helping families on remote learning days as well. We have Mrs. Callahan as our AIS math teacher. She is going to do a similar thing to reading, but she's going to have a much greater online presence available. And one of the really special things that we're planning to do with Mrs. Callahan is have an online sign up so that whenever a family is home and working remotely, whether that's are all remote families or hybrid families, and they're having challenges with math, they could literally schedule a time with Mrs. Callahan to Zoom with her so she can help your child with that math or enhance their understanding of the mathematical concepts. So more information will come on that. We're still working on that process. Gifted programming services, we call it GPS. We're going to move to more of a push-in model. So all of our students will have access to gifted programming services, which is a special thing. Plus, our amazing gifted teacher, Mrs. Rigi, is going to be posting online enrichment activities for all of our students to partake in. Other services that we have will be similar. Will be both in person and have that remote presence. For special education services, our case managers are going to work with the individual families to maximize the supports for the students. It's our number one goal with these students is to give them all the services that we're able to give them. So within the hybrid model, you'll see both in-person and remote services for those students. And for all remote special education students, we're going to have remote services for them. So one of the questions I get quite frequently was, what do Wednesdays look like? So theoretically, say your child was a Monday, Tuesday hybrid student, a cohort A, and they were in session Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesdays, they would have synchronous, which is some live instruction on Wednesdays, and some asynchronous, which means not live, and they would have some learning activities. So Wednesdays will traditionally be approximately a half day of instruction, some live, and some learning activities to do that day. What do those independent learning days look like? So that's Thursdays and Fridays for your cohort A and Mondays and Tuesdays for your cohort B. We're going to have asynchronous lessons, a lot of independent learning activities. Those could be online activities. They could be on printed paper. They could be project-based activities, so on and so forth. So those will be assigned by the teacher. There'll be different things for your child to accomplish on those days. Technology, a lot of questions about technology. Students who need Chromebooks will be provided with Chromebooks. So we have 2 assigned Chromebook pickup times. The first one is Monday, August 31st from 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock, and that's going to be in our Forest bus loop right near the flagpole. And the other one is going to be that same week, Friday, September 4th from 9 o'clock until noon. There's a survey available on WITS, and within that survey, it asks you if you need a Chromebook. If for some reason that survey did not appear in your system, whatever the case is, please make sure you contact me, and I will make sure we add your name to our list. Lunch and breakfast. So both our gym and our cafeteria are going to be used as eating stations. So students who buy their lunch will still go through the line, but then they'll sit in wherever their designated area is. Each teacher has an assignment. They'll know where their children are to eat lunch. And I'll show you some pictures on the next couple slides of what that might look like. But all the social distancing rules still apply. Obviously, the students are able to take off their mask when they eat lunch, but we need to maintain the social distancing, so it's going to look a little bit different than it has before. We'll still have our breakfast program that we've had before. So when students do arrive in the morning, if they want their breakfast, they'll just go down to the cafeteria, they'll buy their breakfast, and they can eat in the cafeteria in a socially distanced manner. This is, for those of you who are not familiar, our cafeteria. We will have approximately 2 students at each of those long tables, because students need to be 6 feet apart and they need to be facing the same direction. So our cafeteria, though it's a very large space, can only accommodate about 40 students. Our gymnasium can accommodate about 80 students. So we're not able to have as large of sections and lunch as we traditionally have. This picture right here is our gymnasium currently. That's what it looks like right now as we prepare to have lunches. You see the desks and tables set up facing all the same direction, so that and spread out 6 feet apart, so that we're meeting all the mandates for health there. A lot of questions I've had are about recess. So I'd like to talk about recess. Students will wear masks at recess. Students will be brought outside as much as possible. We try to have a minimum of 20 minutes of recess per day, and we want the kids to go out and have a good time. The students will be reminded to socially distance while they're outside. When the weather is poor, we'll have to have recess inside, so your child may want to bring an activity that they like to do, that they could do at their station or somewhere in the classroom. So I get the question frequently about, well, my child's playing soccer right now, and my child's playing baseball or gymnastics or whatever the case may be. Why is school so different? Well, the reason is because we are required to operate under a totally different set of guidance than those little leagues and so on and so forth function under. And so we have to follow the rules by which we're given by those governing bodies. So dismissal, this is an area that is going to take longer than it traditionally has. So students who are riding the bus will be brought out to the bus by their teacher and they will load up. But our students who are being dismissed to be picked up will be brought to our cafeteria and they'll be able to be spread out 6 feet apart. And as the parents pull up in the loop, and I'll show you a picture of our bus loop in a second, we're going to have walkie-talkies and we're going to ask you your name and which children you're picking up. And you'll say which children. We will radio in and somebody will walk your children out. This will take longer than it normally has. This will be a slower process, but we need to A, make sure it's socially distanced, and B, make sure we have children going with who they need to go with. So that's a very important component of this, but I just forewarning, that is going to be a slower process than it normally has. We are going to do our best, but we want to make sure safety is on the forefront. This is our pickup loop. So you'll see the canopy overhead, and this is the side of the building that faces North Forest Road. And you can see that van that's parked there. That's right about where families will pull up. We will have personnel outside greeting your vehicle, finding out which student that you're picking up and radioing that information. A lot of questions have come about the supply list. So the teachers have broken down the supply list for you. Those are posted online. And you will need to know what supplies stay at home, what supplies stay at school, and what supplies travel back and forth with their student. We are going to have some open house. We are making a dedicated effort to connect with our families and students as much as possible. And as difficult as it is during this time, it is a priority for us. And we are going to have virtual open houses on September 2nd and September 3rd by grade level. And your teacher on either September 1st or September 2nd will send you an electronic invitation so you know which session to join so that your child and you can meet your teacher. So that'll be a great experience. Our kindergarten team will do a meet and greet with their families. We want to make sure our brand new kindergartners get to see their teacher and their teacher's face before they come here to school. And that's going to be on September 3rd from 3 o'clock until 4 o'clock. And I know a WITS mail went out about that so that you can see what time slot your child will be in. Wanted to talk about visitors to the school. So for safety reasons, we'll not be permitting visitors into the building this year. So if you do come to pick up your child early or drop them off late, there's the front door image of it right there. There's a buzzer right next to that yellow sign. So ring that bell. We will have somebody greet you at the door and take care of your needs for whatever the situation is. But it's one of those situations where we just need to make sure we're keeping everybody as safe as possible. So I want to let you know that I'm always available. My direct line here at school is 716-626-9810. My email is kwing@williamsvillek12.org. And I'm also going to be at the farm market here in Williamsville with the middle school principal, Mr. Calandra, Saturday the 29th from 8 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning. If you want to drop by and say hi or you have any questions, I'm happy to speak with you then as well. So there's a lot of things going on. We're going to maximize student safety and make sure we're doing every single thing we can to provide a great and enriching experience for your child moving into this school year. We can't wait to see the kids, and we're looking forward to an awesome 2020-2021 school year. Thank you.